Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Judge's Topics podcast. Today, we're going to be covering a few things. The headliner for today is going to be the new Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning Part 1. And I'll also give a little recap of the new music that came out, specifically the best records or best songs that came out these past couple of weeks. Sort of like a little recap for you guys so you can listen to it in your car, just bump it in your headphones. So, yeah, let's get right into it. So the Mission Impossible franchise has honestly been an insanely popular franchise that has been running for probably more than 2 decades. Obviously, Tom Cruise is the lead star in here, and he has been honestly carrying and dominating a lot of these action blockbuster films. Obviously, Top Gun being a second contender for it. But yeah, Mission Impossible has been a franchise that honestly I think needs no introduction. Everybody knows about it at this point, even Gen Z, that's my generation, and even the newer generations probably know about Mission Impossible since it's so freaking popular and they're still making movies about it. But yeah, anyway, to be frank, I really do not understand the storyline of any of the Mission Impossible movies. I will give a little bit more credit for this one. Storyline and themes throughout this movie is more of how AI, if it falls in the wrong hands, can really become a super dangerous weapon that can honestly just destroy the entire world, and can really just dictate how future wars can go by just the click of a button. The movie kind of came in the perfect moment because now in the current era and current state that we are when it comes to technology, AI is dominating a lot of things. It's really hard to now tell what is AI and what isn't AI. Some things are pretty obvious, but now it's getting so advanced to the point that you can't tell if that's the actual person or not, especially in music. Obviously, a lot of people knew about the whole backlash of when someone did a song using the Drake AI voice, and obviously Drake was very upset and they decided to sue the person. There's so much things going around with AI, that can affect even the identity of a person, which is also a relevant theme throughout this movie, as Ethan Hunt, or I think it was Ethan Hunt, or the villain of this movie, be undetected or even change their identity by using someone else's identity as sort of a cover-up. I will say that while the themes that this movie is tackling is very interesting, and I think they did a pretty solid job on here, I think the story in general is kind of clunky in how it goes, especially the villains. I mean, I can't really give you the right answer of who's truly the villain. I mean, I kind of can. I kind of can give you the right answer, but I can't because there's like 3 other side villains who are kind of aimed like they were kind of like the main villain, but they aren't. And it's like, is it the AI or is it the guy? Is it the feds, or is it like the weapon stealer that's like sort of stuck in a trance here? It's very confusing to just dictate who really is the bad guy in here, and especially how this film kind of like presents Ethan Hunt as he's supposedly supposed to be in a run. He refuses the government's orders on taking on this $50 million bounty, who is supposed to be his love interest from the previous films. And basically, there's a whole problem built in that he's sort of like on the run. And at the same time, he has destroyed this key that was used in a submarine that I guess is sort of connected with the AI that can honestly be a whole weapon. And just it's sort of like an add-on to the AI that can kind of like control things. And I think if you use that key to turn on a specific machine or something, it'll, like, the AI can control it, and it can sort of like control how the submarine can move and how it can act, and when it comes to throwing missiles and stuff like that. It's an interesting part. Not gonna lie, it's a very interesting part and arc. I'm probably explaining it pretty crappily here, but it's like what I remember from the movie. But yeah, also this movie is 2 hours and a half. I will say it didn't necessarily feel like a 2 hours and a half movie, but there are some segments that it's like kind of slow and kind of boring. The first few segments of the film is like, it's a bit like meh. There's a lot of like plot exposition. There's a lot of like a exposition drop on this film in the first 10 or 15 minutes, and it's like, slow down. Like, I am not understanding I'm understanding fragments of the story now. It feels like it's a lot. It's like a vomit in the beginning. But I will say that the action in here is honestly pretty cool. I really like the stunts. I really like the fight choreography in here. There's a lot of like movement and flow, especially with Ilsa's character. who is supposed to be Tom Cruise's love interest. She really has like this attack pattern that kind of looks straight out of a Metal Gear Solid game. It's very impressive. It's very cool, and you can definitely tell they put a lot of effort and time when setting up these fight scenes. It feels very natural. There's even some fight scenes with Tom Cruise that it feels like. It just feels like you're in a video game where it's like he's beating the shit out of somebody, and then he's about to use a pipe to crush someone's skull, but then like refuses to crush someone's skull. I don't know, like how that fight is set up was very funny to me. But yeah, the funny thing with this movie is that there's more like of the extreme stunts that we see him do with in the previous films than there is hand to hand combat, which is kind of funny because I was expecting like a whole like international like everybody like a John Wick plot basically where everybody's going after you or you're going after something and it's like tracing you too at the same time. It's like I would expect to be there are a lot of violence, but it's kind of odd that there's not as much fight scenes as I would expect. I will say the stunts in here there was like two stunts in here that was really like cool and I think are like the best stunts. It's more on the end game section here. I won't spoil it. But apparently there was behind the scenes footage in here and none of it was like CGI or whatnot. This Tom Cruise literally just carried on these stunts and it was impressive as hell. So props to him. This guy is 60 and just throwing himself out of fucking mountains and buildings and trains and something like and stuff like that. And it's just very impressive of all the stuff he does. It's kind of motivating, honestly. But yeah, I will say it's not really a spoiler, but there's not like out of the two best stunts in here. I don't think none of those two stunts kind of beat the bigger Fallout, Mission Impossible Fallout stunts where it's like this guy is going on a plane and there's like a bunch of stuff going on. It was very bizarre. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like those bizarre stunts from Fallout, which I really enjoyed. It's not really here. It's more focused and like again, there's a lot of like the scenes where it's trying to, I guess, write the more emotional stuff for the characters and the plot events, stuff like that, which I do get since it's supposed to be like part one out of a possible trilogy, I think, of the ending of the quote unquote ending, I think, or the story arc of this movie, the Dead Reckoning arc, I guess if you want to label it like that. It's almost like it's labeled by like Demon Slayer arcs. It's very funny. But yeah, I would also say that the characters in here I thought were cool. I like how they sort of like wrote the character arcs in here, and I also really did like the new character that was introduced, the same actress who played Peggy Carter in the Captain America movie. I really do think that her range is pretty cool in here. I like how she acts and just has a lot of body language and stuff like that with her movements and stuff. I honestly found Paris, played by Pom Klementif, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I really found her character to be very cool, especially that little plot twist there is at the end. I like how they handle it, even though I was kind of disappointed by the lack of dialogue there was from her character. And I realized more on body language. I think she tackled that thing so well, especially seeing her previous stuff, especially with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, where she's very expressive and how she reacts to certain events and actions and stuff like that. So I think she's sort of like a pro in that sentiment. And also her fighting sequences are, I think, some of the best fighting sequences I've seen in the Mission Impossible franchise so far. I find it funny that, as I said earlier, talking about who's really the villain here, I find it funny that Gabriel is supposed to be the main bad guy in this film, who I guess has the AI on his side and whatnot, and he's supposed to like activate the missile or whatever, the submarine that has missiles and like leads unlocks a certain thing that can be used for destruction. You guys get the whole big saving the world plot. I find it funny that it's like the only thing we know from him is like, oh yeah, you remember that one movie where he killed Tom Cruise's first love interest? Well, it's that guy. Like that's basically how he was sort of introduced in here. And I find it like again, it's coming from a guy who obviously watched I think all the Mission Impossible movies, but I really have a faint memory on a lot of the plots and how they go because I just remember the stunts. I think I remember the stunts by movie perhaps, but it's like it's a kind of a weird way of presenting him, and it's like, are you not gonna give me more depth? I mean, the only thing I got from this movie is that he's like a masochist and he likes seeing other people suffer, and that's like his driving motivation when it comes to pursuing this AI thing. That's the only thing I got from his arc or from his character, and I thought they were going to really like, explore more into details and stuff like that. And I get that he's supposed to be like a very smart character, as he outsmarts a lot of people in this movie, especially how he has the AI thing on his hand that he uses it as like a mechanism, as a self defense mechanism, which is really cool. Um, but yeah, honestly, I thought there should be more into writing his arc, and I guess probably in part two we'll probably see more of a fleshed out arc with his character. So, final thing I want to discuss about this movie is at the ending of this movie. I'm not going to spoil anything. It feels more like a natural ending. It's not like an abrupt cliffhanger, which Across the Spider-Verse kind of had. It's not really a spoiler. Like, I think you guys have seen this movie at this point. It's been a month since that movie came out. If you haven't, please go watch it. I think it's my personal favorite movie of the year. I've watched it twice already in theaters, and it is freaking stellar. But anyway, going back to Mission Impossible, I like how they ended this thing and like obviously an open ending because they're gonna make a part two of this arc. But I liked how it kind of ended naturally in the sense of like it ends in a way where it's like it's not like you were literally about to fight this character. It's not like a abrupt cliffhanger that it's like what the hell. It ends like everything is kind of resolved in this movie. There's nothing really like left hanging except that one main storyline is going to be continuing in the next movie. So yeah, with all that being said, I know you guys are a fanatic of scores, who really isn't a fanatic of rating movies in general. What did I think of this movie? What am I going to give this movie? I'm going to go with a light 7 out of 10. I thought it was kind of fun to watch this movie at times, but it was also kind of boring hearing this like dialogue segments and bits of this movie kind of had in the beginning, in the middle, and it would kind of like slow down the pacing in the movie for a while, except when it kind of got back into its feet and did the extreme OG Mission Impossible stunts that I thought were pretty cool. So as we know, I am a huge music geek, and I'm going to do a little recap of the latest records that came out, the latest EPs or projects that came out these few weeks that I felt that grabbed my attention, and you guys should definitely check it out. If you are a reggaeton fan, you probably know about Tiny, who released I think his debut record, which is called Data. What I like about this record is also the cover art, which is made by the same guy, the same animator, I think, the graphic design artist who made Ghost in the Shell, which I thought was a major W. And the production from start to finish is honestly fantastic. I like how these beats are extremely glitchy. They're like very neo perreo type of like glitchy matrixy beats, and are very electronic too. He also has electronic features such as Skrillex and Fortet, also helping him produce some beats on the side here. I will say that it's not extremely consistent from beginning to end, but as a package, as a whole, you're gonna really escape here, I think, with more than 10 songs, which is a lot because this record is like 19 songs. And honestly, it might scare little people who aren't that into reggaeton and don't want to listen to a very long record. Well, it's not very long, but it's like an hour long record. But honestly, good to see a shot. You're gonna hear a lot of great production scattered all around here, a lot of fantastic features. And honestly, there are some songs in here that just blew my mind, and it just gave me so much more respect to Tiny as a producer. We also have Playa Saturno by Rao Alejandro. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest Rao fan. I know it's a shocker. A lot of Boricuas are huge Rao fans, but I'm personally not a huge Rao fan. But this record kind of changed my perception on how I view Rao as an artist. A lot of the majority of this record is just perreo bangers where it's like you can start blasting it. It's very kinky. It's very horny. It's very like it makes you want to move. It's what I'm trying to get at. A lot of these lyrics, if you understand Spanish, are raunchy as hell. There's something you do not play next to your parents, or you play in a church or a family gathering. It's obviously for yourself or in the party, you're at the club, obviously, but there's some just designated bops and hits that are definitely going to stem from this record. Sure, it isn't as experimental in terms of like the futuristic sounds that he went through in Saturno, which was his previous record. But honestly, I don't think it's that much of a problem, especially since this record is only like 40 minutes long and it's like 14 tracks long too. And I get enough enjoyment from what I'm receiving from this record. JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown decided to drop an EP, or as they call it, a DLC pack for Scaring the Hose. And we all know that Scaring the Hose is so far my album of the year of this year so far. I don't think there's really any record that's like remotely. I mean, I wouldn't say remotely close. I mean, there is the This Is Why Paramore record, which I absolutely love, and it's an amazing rock record. I loved, and it's great to see Paramore just still kicking it with their old sound too. But just the way that JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown went off and scaring the host is honestly amazing, and it has so much replay value thanks to its length and thanks to just how beefy and meaty and punchy the record is in general. It's honestly just an amazing listen. But anyway, going back to the DLC pack, we have 4 new tracks in here, and honestly, all these 4 new tracks are great songs individually. I do understand that I think 1 or 2 songs. I get that 1 or 2 songs in here weren't in the original Scaring the Host. I sort of understand why it wasn't. It's sort of like it's on its own lane, and it's a very different sound. All these 4 songs are very different. They're very like old school sample hip hop type of stuff, but also mixing in the experimental elements from Scaring the Hose, the very eerie and distorted parts of it, especially the outros. That's how I do like a sample chop of like an old Italian sample, one of these songs. I think it was In Manos, which is my favorite song of the EP, that has a very cool outro with, the very old school Italian chop and these very like distorted drums that keep on switching, almost like in Rebound from LP. But yeah, it has like a lot of these great boom bap beats surrounded in here. I will say the last track, no, I'm not reading all the notes. It's crazy. It's just right in your face. These open hats are insane. It just starts off the punch and a punch and a punch, and Peggy's just spitting his lungs out, and we have a damn acapella in the last 2 minutes for Danny Brown, which that was very funny, and he's just laughing his ass off and just having fun, which just shows more of the process behind this record and how it was just more to fuck around, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, man, honestly, these 4 songs are great. I think you should check it out, especially the ones who loved Scaring the Host. And even if you haven't listened to Scaring the Host, highly recommend it. And if you aren't familiar with Peggy or Danny Brown's material, you're still gonna enjoy this. You have at least a song or 2 that's gonna be in your rotation, especially if you like this old school, new school experimental sound. For my final shout out, I want to shout out McKinley Dixon for his absolutely great record that is Beloved Paradise Jazz. A lot of people are talking about it, especially in the underground hip hop scene. It is a 28-minute, 10-track banger. It's honestly just amazing how this jazz sound and jazz/hip hop sound kind of like morphs into its own little cage almost, and so like I would say it's its own little like house. I kind of see this record being like a small little house, and it's like there's like so like many more like steps and there's like many more steps and layers to this house, and it's like on the outside it can seem kind of like simple, but when you go on the inside there's so many layers inside, because I think people read the length as being 28 minutes and it's like, oh yeah, it's more of like an EP if anything, and it's like, no, I mean, look, like listening to this record, it's like crazy because it's like there's so much complexity even in the 2-minute songs of this record. Even the intro, it being basically a narration, it sort of sets the tone of this record, giving you sort of a vintage old school feeling. It feels very layered with the very hypnotic jazz samples playing in the background, the narrator's voice kind of being very ominous. It's very cool, honestly, and I like how he combines different genres of R&B, jazz hop, I think some elements of trap in one song. It's very cool how he mixes all these in just under 30 minutes. It honestly cannot wait for what he has in the future with his future material too. But yeah, this is so far probably a top 5 hip hop record of the year. Honestly, love this. Anyway, that's all I have for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to JR's Topic Podcast. Hopefully, I'll return soon with another episode. I mean, I heard that Oppenheimer and Barbie is gonna come out next week, and I'm so excited to watch those movies. Hopefully, I do a short review on those 2 films, and also any music that pops up by the way, or a game or something. I'm currently playing Final Fantasy 16 actually. I'm kind of enjoying it. It has some issues, but I'm kind of enjoying the gameplay and combat. I'll go more into detail if I ever get to review Final Fantasy 16. But yeah, honestly, thank you guys so much for tuning in again. Stay safe from any possible pandemic. I'm hearing a lot of stuff going around. And honestly, just cherish every day. just cherish every day. Listen to banger music, watch banger films, play banger video games, enjoy banger stuff, and always just stay banger. That's my new catchphrase. Always stay banger. But yeah, love you. Peace out, everybody.